everyone, I'm Ashleigh Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious. We are knee-deep in the federal racketeering trial of Sean Diddy Combs, and if you think you've heard it all, think again, my friends, because the prosecution has been dropping bombshell after bombshell almost every day. And if you missed even one day of this, you could have missed something that changes everything. We have heard from ex-girlfriends, insiders, former assistants, even Grammy-winning celebrities. The list of witnesses included a rapper whose Porsche was firebombed, a makeup artist who found Cassie bleeding after a party at Prince's house, a woman who says Diddy dangled her from a 17th-story balcony railing, and an assistant who says a man named Uncle Paulie once took her to a vacant building, forced her to endure days of polygraph tests, and threatened that if she failed them, she'd end up in the East River swimming with the fishes. Talk about a character from The Sopranos. Yeah, so racketeering, folks. Maybe it is an appropriate charge. And that's just some of what we've heard so far. Plus, we now have the actual audio recording that was played for the jury where Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is heard threatening to kill someone who claimed to have her sex tapes. So there were no cameras in court, right? We have had to rely on reporters writing about that tape, writing about everything. But writing about that tape, it sure did sound like it was menacing and even thuggish, right? I thought she was gangsta. But you're about to hear the tape for yourself. And I am really curious about how you're going to feel about it. I'd like to see if you think that it is a young woman who is ready to actually kill the man that she's threatening, bury him 6 feet under. Or if she's a young woman who's terrified that he's got a sex tape of her on his laptop and he's not turning it over.
I'm going to kill you. You don't understand. I don't give a I've never killed anybody in my life, but I will kill you because you're with me. You're with me in my life right now. If I saw a video of you doing anything that you didn't want people to see, I would show you the video so you could tell me what the happened. You're playing games with me, telling me you saw some now you're saying you didn't see some you're with me. I'm going to you up. I don't think you understand. And it's not going to be my hands, and it's not going to be blood on my hands. Someone else is going to do it.
Someone else we heard from today. Do you remember Ashleigh Hayes? He's been a witness in this case. He's one of the escorts who got up on the stand and told his story. I like this guy. I'll tell you, I like this guy. An exotic dancer. He goes by The Punisher, and, the pictures prove that it's an appropriate name. But Ashleigh Hayes found out something in the last 24 hours that kind of knocked the wind out of him. And that is that when the jury was watching the sex tapes, right, for 2 days, the jury was watching clips of the sex tapes, of the freak-offs, and they had earphones and private screens so that the rest of the courtroom couldn't see it, just the parties involved, defense and prosecution, the judge, and then the jurors and the alternates. So over 20 people. Ashleigh just found out that he's likely on those tapes and had no idea that those tapes were being recorded. And here is my conversation with The Punisher, Ashleigh Hayes, on my News Nation show, Banfield. And it went on from there. A lot of the same stuff. Whether Diddy or his staff shot videos of those freak-offs, it is pretty damn clear they didn't want anybody else to be filming. But another guy named Jonathan Adi, one of 13 escorts that Cassie claims she was forced to have sex with over the years, Jonathan Adi told this program exclusively that he secretly recorded a freak-off himself as the escort, that he went ahead and did it anyway. He said for his own protection. Have a listen.
No, I had a USB video memory stick done like spy shot, and I put it in the water on the table, in the living room table of the hotel downstairs. I filmed it, and it had everything described, and it had her threatening me, but he was telling her what to say. We had an argument. When I left, I knew this I knew they were paranoid. So I wanted to guarantee my safety. So I texted him. I said, "Hey, if anything happens to me, I got evidence I'm being with you."
And Jonathan Odie says to keep that recording under wraps, Diddy had him sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, in exchange for $5 million in hush money. And that brings me back to the Punisher, who wonders whether he unknowingly sold his name and his reputation for life for $800 in that hotel room. And what, if anything, he might be able to do about that now. Sheree, the Punisher Hayes, welcome back to the program. So this is quite a turn of events we didn't expect. We had spoken with you a couple weeks ago, figured that your part in the trial had played out, and then suddenly you find out something new. Just tell me how you learned that you might be one of the people in the tapes that jury was watching.
Literally, I've known less than 24 hours. I got a random call from another news outlet that I did a previous interview with, and they just like, "Hey, we want to do a follow up with you." And then it was just kind of sprung on me, like, how do you feel that you're possibly been shown in the videotapes in the trial? And I'm still kind of in disbelief. It's there's that saying of when it rains, it pours. And, the last couple of weeks, starting with your program, I've been trying to create a different narrative. The association to the situation is already a black eye and pretty ugly. And I've been doing my best to do some sort of damage control to kind of circumvent the bad decision that I made all those years ago. But now to understand.
Well, let me ask you about that. Sure. Yeah, I know that you feel, and you've said it before on this show, that you made a bad decision getting into that circumstance and the free cough, being paid for the sex in the hotel room. But did you ever think for a minute that there was filming going on? Did you see any cameras? Was that discussed?
No, actually nothing at all. And actually it was the extreme opposite of it, because my phone was confiscated prior to the activities to make sure there was no recordings or anything going on. So that actually made me feel secure in the moment, because I thought precautions was taken to protect everyone's privacy. So I'm really kind of blown away at this possibility that there could be a video of me circulating. And I know it's supposed to be evidence, right? But somehow these things have a way of ending up in the public. So I'm just hoping there's just not another layer of damage control that I'm faced with.
I know that you, it's all new. I think you mentioned at the top here that it's only been about 24 hours since you even found out about this. Do you have a liaison who worked with you to bring you into the federal courthouse to go up on the stand and testify for the government that you can now reach out to and ask, is that me on the tape that you played for the jury?
My only recourse to getting information would be the attorney that was appointed to me by the prosecution. So I do plan on emailing him early tomorrow and hopefully getting some sort of clarity to the possibility of this tape. I know in none of my preparations and with the prosecution was anything mentioned to me that there was video of me. So this whole scenario just coming out of the blue the way it is just, I'm just utterly shocked.
There might be people watching, Sheree, who say, but wait a second, he's a sex worker. Why would he be upset about a tape? To be clear, nobody from the prosecutor's office told you that they were going to play a tape, potentially of you, in court to more than 12 people.
No, absolutely not. There was no conversation or indication whatsoever that there was video associated with me and my participation with any of this. So this is all news to me. It's my first time hearing anything like this. I'm also curious. I'm not even sure if the prosecution presented these tapes, where they came from whatsoever. I'm just, I don't know, man. This is, it's already been a lot to manage. So I'm just hoping that this doesn't take on a new challenge for me.
Do you know, Sheree, I mean, we've been listening to multiple different accounts from Cassie and from Jane and from some assistants. And the Freakoffs never followed exactly the same pattern. They were very similar, but some Freakoffs had one escort and some Freakoffs had upwards of 4 and would last for days. Do you know, Sheree, if there were any other escorts the night that you were with Cassie and Diddy?
So that's another thing I was also kind of speculating about. You know, I did show up at 3 a.m. And, you know, who knows if somebody was there prior to me or from what I say, how these things prolonged over long periods of time, if someone was there after me. So all of those things are a possibility. I don't have any concrete knowledge of anybody there before, anybody there after. So I can't speak to the factual account of that, but I'm almost hoping that was the case and maybe it was someone else on the video that just aligned with my timeline.
Sheree, if you do discover, if the prosecutors do divulge to you that it is you on that video and that you were videotaped without your knowledge, you have an expectation of privacy. Are you going to sue? Is that sort of in your vernacular at this point to reach out and sue the person who taped you?
Honestly, at this point, it actually isn't. I have to honestly say I maintain a space of denial, right? I'd rather believe, at this point, I'd rather believe it's not me than deal with what comes with the idea of this. You know, it's such a negative circumstance being associated with this at all. And then it seems like if you are put into a scenario where there's some sort of civil suit or a legal action that presents as monetary gain, it just creates a worse light on you, you know. And I'm trying to move away from this dark cloud and try to create a different narrative and the idea of more headlines of, you know, the Punisher files a suit. You know, everybody jumps on that and stuff like that, and then it creates this whole storm of judgment, you know, and negativity. I'm just, you know, at this point, it's just something that I would like to steer away from if possible.
I can understand that. Let me do this for you because I know you have turned your life in a different direction. You released a book. It's called In Search of Freezer Meat. It actually came up in testimony. It was subpoenaed by the government, and so maybe that's a positive in all of this. At least some promotion for the work that you've put to paper. A little bit of extra sales on the book. Sheree, let us know what you find out. If you discover anything in this very bizarre turn of events, give us a call. Come back on.
Absolutely. I sure will. Thank you, Ashleigh.
So this is the government's case, and prosecutors say it all adds up to racketeering, a criminal enterprise based around getting sex and drugs and built on fear and violence and cash and silence. The trial is taking a break today because it's Juneteenth. It's a holiday. So today we're doing something special. We're hitting rewind and we're bringing you the biggest, most jaw-dropping moments from the trial so far. The moments that stopped us in our tracks, that made us say, did they really just say that? So let's get into it. Later, Cassie signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Records, and eventually she and Diddy became romantically involved, she said. She testified that their first sexual encounter happened in Miami after Diddy gave her a, quote, blue dolphin ecstasy pill. She said she thought it meant they were exclusive. But later, she said she realized she was just one of many girlfriends. She told the jury, quote, he would say, I'm Puff Daddy, and Puff Daddy has many women, end quote. That's when the control started, Cassie said. And according to her, it touched every corner of her life. She said he dictated what she wore, how she looked, how she smiled, how her nails had to be French tip or white in color. She had to be tan. He even talked about her getting breast implants. Once she testified, Diddy told her that she looked too Mexican with her hair styled a certain way. And if Diddy didn't like what he saw, Cassie said, quote, the next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face, end quote. She told the jury that Diddy would snap, telling her, quote, fix your face, quote, or, quote, watch your mouth, quote. But she said it happened quite often. But nothing she said compared to the freak-offs. She told the jury they were, quote, very choreographed experiences. each one staged down to the lighting and the baby oil. Diddy insisted, she said, on Johnson's brand, and it had to be warm. Cassie said his staffers would supply the rooms and stick the bottles in hotel sinks that were filled with hot water just to get them ready. The goal? To make sure she and any male escort involved were, quote, glistening. Stop for a moment there. Just file this one away, this little piece of information, where Cassie told the jury that staffers would get the freak-offs ready. Staffers would bring the products, the baby oil, the lube, and the condoms, and all these things. Staffers would do this. That's important for later. I'll get to it in a moment. Cassie testified that if she started to look dry during the freak-offs, that Diddy would stop everything and tell her to reapply the baby oil, sometimes every 5 minutes, she said. This was the point in court where Diddy actually shook his head when Cassie described rubbing baby oil on the escorts. So I'm like, wait, that's the point where you're shaking your head? Where Cassie's rubbing baby oil on a guy? Because the stuff I'm about to tell you all, there are a lot of other places where if I'm the defendant, I'm shaking my head. And I don't think that would be one of them, because that is the most benign thing you're about to hear. If Cassie's telling the truth that she's putting baby oil on an escort, that is nothing. I don't know why that elicited that kind of response from Diddy, but he did. He shook his head. Cassie said when they ran out of baby oil, which she said actually often happened, they had to call a staffer. Again, staffer. File that away for later. Or they'd have to tip the hotel bell desk to bring in more. Once she said they actually inflated a kiddie pool in the middle of a hotel room and filled it with baby oil and lube. This is weird, this next part. Cassie said that Diddy made her climb in, fully dressed. He wanted the visuals, the performance, she said. She estimated they went through about 10 large bottles of baby oil per session. And Cassie testified that sometimes the freak-offs would last 3 to 4 days. She told the jury, quote, it was such a mess. It was like, what are we doing? End quote. And prosecutors asked, who decided how these sessions played out? And Cassie's answer never changed. Sean, she said. It was his decision, she said, to bring in male escorts, his idea to pour hot candle wax on her body, his setup, his rules. But that wasn't all that the jury learned. Cassie told them about drugs and said there were a lot. Ecstasy, cocaine, marijuana, ketamine, mushrooms. She said Diddy provided them all. And Cassie says she used the drugs not to party, but to numb herself to what was happening. The jury saw photos of 6 male escorts. She said they'd hired those guys, including one of them with a nickname, The Punisher. Ugh. Cassie said Diddy had her look for them on Craigslist and Backpage.com. His preference, she said, was, quote, black males with large penises, end quote. She said each one was paid in cash, $1,500 to $6,000 a session. Prosecutors pressed for details, asking, quote, at what point would the escorts ejaculate, end quote. And Cassie answered, quote, usually when it was okay for them, per Sean, but usually they did it on me, end quote. And then she said Diddy would lead her into another room and tell her to spread the escort's semen on his body. Cassie said she would do that, quote, usually on his chest or nipples, end quote. First came the masturbation, then came the touching, then came the oral, you know what? It was a routine, she said. It was a sequence, and according to Cassie, it was never about her. Inside these hotel rooms, Cassie said the aftermath was disgusting. And what was left behind, she said, was pure chaos. Oil and wax was smeared everywhere, on the walls, on door handles, on furniture. She said the smell of urine, of sweat, and of body odor and candle wax was everywhere. She said sometimes there was actually blood on the sheets because she said she was expected to participate in this behavior even when menstruating. So another moment. And can I just remind you, who's behind Diddy in the court? All his kids, mom, baby mom. Like, so many family members are hearing all this. And it got even worse. If you didn't think it could, it did. Cassie then said that Diddy urinated on her. During some of the freak-offs, she said he had the escorts urinate on her. In one case, she said an escort urinated into her mouth. And she described the incident in detail for this jury, and I will quote her. "I choked. There was too much urine in my mouth. I was laying in a position I couldn't easily get out of. I put my hands up to get him to stop, but nothing happened." End quote. She said she never wanted the escorts to urinate on her, that she never asked for it, but that, quote, "it was a turn on for him," meaning Diddy. So it happened. At that point, you could see the jury shift, physically move, uncomfortable in their chairs. That's the point where the one black male juror shook his head repeatedly and looked right at Diddy as Cassie was describing what was happening to her. And a black female juror looked stunned, her face like reacting in disbelief and shock and at times disgust. Misa Hilton, that's Justin Combs' mom, right? So Justin Combs is Diddy's son, and his mom, Misa, left the courtroom at that point after Cassie described getting urine in her mouth from Diddy and male escorts. So yeah, I get it. Good on Misa for leaving. I wouldn't have wanted to be there in the first place. And when Cassie named the Intercontinental Hotel in New York City, she said that Diddy was actually charged a massive cleaning fee to, quote, redecorate the room after one of the freak-offs. In court, Cassie was the one who narrated the footage, and she sort of went frame by frame. And by now, you've probably seen a lot of it. She's seen leaving, she's on the surveillance, leaving the room barefoot, carrying a purse and a bag and a phone. And the prosecutors are probably trying to show here that she's trying to flee. You know, who walks out of a hotel room barefoot to the elevators unless you're in a hurry, right? Possibly that she was fleeing because she was being coerced, maybe even kidnapped. Cassie testified that the bag that she was carrying and the phone, that they were hers. And that's important because it contradicts what Diddy had claimed at his bail hearing, that those things belonged to him, he said, and that he was simply trying to retrieve his things when he chased after Cassie and beat her up to get his things, you know? Diddy's point was that he wasn't stopping Cassie from escaping anything, that he was just chasing her down to get his things. Well, Cassie testified today they were her things: purse, bag, phone. And by the way, it's also very different than what Diddy's defense lawyers said in their opening statement, that he was just trying to get his phone, right? This is going to be hard for his lawyers to sort of get past. Cassie also in court today confirmed that an escort named Jules was inside that hotel room when she fled for the elevator doors. And keep in mind, that is a person. That is someone the prosecution may call to corroborate her story, if they ever found the guy named Jules. I don't know. Stay tuned. Cassie told the jurors that she tried to defend herself against Diddy, but that any resistance just made things worse. She testified, quote, "It would escalate the fight more and make it worse for myself. It would make him stronger and make him want to push harder." When asked how many times Diddy pulled her to the ground, she answered, "Too many to count." The next witness on the stand was Regina Ventura, Cassie's mom. Regina testified that in December of 2011, Cassie came home to Connecticut and she was badly bruised. Regina photographed the marks on her daughter's back and the marks on her daughter's thigh and said Cassie finally admitted that Diddy had beaten her. Cassie's mom also told the jury, quote, "She was beaten by Sean Combs," end quote. Cassie's mom also read a disturbing email from her daughter out loud in court. In the email, Cassie told her mom, quote, "The threats that have been made towards me by Sean Puffy Combs are that he is going to release 2 explicit sex tapes of me, one on Christmas Day, maybe before or right after, and another one sometime soon after. He has said also that he will be having someone hurt me and Scott Muscati physically. He made a point that it wouldn't be by his hands. He actually said he'd be out of the country when it happened," end quote. Cassie's mom told the jury she was physically sick after reading that email. She told the jury, quote, "The sex tapes threw me. I didn't know the other person in it, but I knew that he was going to try to hurt my daughter," And when asked who she was referring to with he, she said Sean Combs. Cassie's mom also testified that around the very same time, Diddy demanded $20,000 from her. It was money that Diddy claimed he'd spent on Cassie and now wanted back because he discovered that Cassie was seeing Kid Cudi. The prosecutor asked, so who paid it? And Cassie's mom replied, my husband and myself. Cassie's mom told the jury that she got wire instructions from Diddy's bookkeeper at Bad Boy Records. Stop for a minute. Diddy's bookkeeper at Bad Boy Records sent her wire instructions for the $20,000. Look, you can debate whether or not this is extortion, but it sure is coincidental that Diddy's demanding $20,000 from Cassie's mom right after he's threatening to release sex tapes and suggesting he's angry that Cassie's seeing another guy. You can debate whether that's extortion. But if it is, and he uses the wire service to do it, and he uses an employee of Bad Boy Records, you are getting dang close to the charges of racketeering. Maybe even absolutely proving racketeering. Then Cassie's mom said that she and her husband actually had to take out a home equity loan for $20,000. They had to put a loan on their home to wire Diddy that $20K. Let that sink in. They mortgaged their home to pay what they felt was extortion money, $20K, to a billionaire. $20K that they didn't even have. Lucky for them, 4 days later, the money mysteriously was sent back. No explanations. And that was that. It turns out if federal prosecutors are right, Puff Daddy didn't just beat up his girlfriend. He beat up her friends, too. And 2 of those friends threw down on the stand today. You remember last week when Don Richard told the jury about witnessing Diddy attacking his girlfriend Cassie with a frying pan? Because, make the eggs, woman. She said afterwards that Diddy looked right at her and threatened her career if she told anyone about what she saw Sean Combs do to Cassie. And Don Richard dropped this bombshell too when she said Diddy went way beyond just threatening her career. Where I come from, people go missing if they talk. And that's a quote. She said that's what Diddy said. She wrote that on any given day, her duties could swing wildly from doing 17,000 things like cracking his knuckles or handling his taxes to doing absolutely nothing at times. But the most important part, Mia said it all came down to one thing: his mood. In that email, she wrote that reading and anticipating Diddy's emotional state was key because his mood dictated everything. The tone, the energy, the structure of the day, and if you got it wrong, she said there were consequences. Mia told the jury there were no boundaries, not even inside the house. She said she wasn't allowed to leave without permission. But she figured once Diddy went to bed, she was off the clock. And one night at 2 a.m., sometime around 2009 or 2010, she decided to sneak out just for a couple hours to see some friends. According to Mia, that decision did not go over well. She testified that not long after she left, security told her that Diddy sent people out looking for her like a manhunt. And privacy, she said, there was none. Mia told the jury that she wasn't allowed to lock her own bedroom door. The rule, as she understood it, came straight from Diddy himself. Quote, "This is my house," end quote. And in his house, locked doors were not allowed. Weird thing was, it didn't seem to be the case for the men who lived at the house. They did have locks. They had deadbolts. Security guards like Uncle Paulie, D-Rock, and Ruben. Yeah, they had deadbolts. In a moment, you are going to find out why this is such an important detail that Mia told the jury. She said her time with Cassie was always on Diddy's terms. He decided when they could see each other, when they could talk, when she could help. And sometimes, Mia said, her job wasn't just to support Cassie, it was to actually spy on her, to, quote, keep tabs on her, end quote, Mia said. That apparently was part of the assignment. Mia told the jury, quote, I had to do everything that he told me to do. We had to be wherever Puff told us we could be, end quote. And if he made a move without his green light, Mia said the consequences were chilling. Quote, something bad, like very scary, could happen. That's how she put it. She called Diddy's punishments, quote, unpredictable, but always, she said, quote, terrifying. And according to Mia, when Diddy wanted to reach Cassie, he made sure it happened. She testified that he'd call, text, email, and if Cassie didn't respond, he'd find another way. Sometimes that meant using staff, sometimes security, and sometimes it meant using Mia. He said she was often tasked with relaying his messages, and on more than one occasion, if Cassie didn't respond fast enough, security would physically show up and look for her. And then Mia's testimony turned much darker. The first incident Mia said she remembered clearly happened in 2009 or 2010. She described being inside Diddy's home when she heard loud thuds coming from upstairs and then looked up to see suitcases flying over a railing. They came crashing down into the foyer below, and later she found Cassie outside, hiding behind a bush. Mia said Cassie was crying and shaking and silently waved her away as if to say, you don't see me, I'm not here. But that would not be the last time that Mia said she saw violence up close. One of the most disturbing incidents mirrored something the jury had just heard from Deontay Nash the night that Cassie's head was split open. Mia told the jury that Diddy showed up in a rage, screaming, have you been drinking? Not just at Cassie, but also at her, and at Deontay, too. Mia described Diddy as, quote, crazy aggressive. She said Diddy threw Cassie to the ground and began beating her. She said both she and Deontay jumped in to try to stop it. At that moment, she said she feared for Cassie's life. She told the jury, quote, I thought he's actually going to kill her. Mia said she watched as Diddy slammed Cassie's head into what she called, quote, the sharpest, strongest corner of the bed frame. And then Cassie's forehead started gushing blood. That is when Mia said everything shifted. She told the jury that Diddy flipped instantly into what she described as, quote, protector mode. She said that Diddy demanded that she call another assistant named Kayla and then instructed her to tell the doctor that Cassie had been drunk and hit her head. Mia said she made the call, not because she wanted to lie, but because she said it was the only way to get Cassie help. And she made it clear to the jury those instructions came directly from Diddy. Throughout that night, Mia said he was consumed with rage. She told the jury, quote, his eyes turned black. There was no getting through, end quote. Mia said that she'd seen Diddy high before, but not that night. That night, she told the jury there was no indication that he was on drugs. To her, it was something even more terrifying. Pure, unfiltered rage. Mia also described a drug experience that she said left her shaken. And it didn't happen at a club or a party. It happened on Diddy's tour bus at Burning Man, she said. She testified that the bus had been outfitted for the night. Blackout shades were drawn, disco lights were flashing, and laid out in front of them 3 separate plates of powdered drugs. According to Mia, Diddy turned it into a game. Everyone there was expected to take a hit of either cocaine, Molly, or ketamine. And Mia said it was not an option. Mia told the jury that she was nervous, like really nervous, and that she tried to say no, but that Diddy wouldn't let it go. What started as joking quickly turned serious. She said he got stern, told her, quote, she was messing up the whole vibe, end quote. Mia admitted that she even tried to fake it, pretended to snort the powder without actually doing it. But she said that Diddy caught on. Mia said he got right up in her face and said that he was upset. And that's when she said Diddy cut a line of drugs just for her. Mia testified that she did snort it, but that the second she got away, she tried to blow it back out. Mia didn't just testify about her own drug use. She said she witnessed Diddy using drugs too. She told the jury that she saw him take MDMA, ketamine, and prescription pills, usually at parties, but sometimes in more unexpected places like the recording studio. There were moments, she said, that made her feel deeply uncomfortable. She remembered thinking, this is an inappropriate time to be doing drugs, like right before a board meeting, she said, or even before appearing on the Chelsea Handler show. But prosecutors asked if Diddy ever used drugs while working, and Mia did not hesitate. Quote, to me, she said, Puff was always working. She also testified about where he kept the drugs, a Louis Vuitton bag she referred to as his med bag. It's the same bag other witnesses have already testified to. Mia said she tried not to snoop, but occasionally she'd catch a glimpse. Once, she said she saw pills stamped with a smiley face with X's over the eyes. Whatever was in that bag, she said, it was always close by. Mia also described a violent outburst on the set of a music video, one that she said could have ended very differently. It happened in Los Angeles, she said sometime around 2011 or 2012. The Wi-Fi had gone down, and Diddy was furious. Mia testified that he wanted her to fix it immediately and screamed, quote, I don't care if you have to call Bill Gates, end quote. But then, she said, he threw a computer right at her, hard. Mia said the laptop flew across the room and, quote, came very close to hitting her in the head. She told the jury this wasn't a one-time thing. There were other incidents, she said, other objects, other moments where she felt like a target. And each time, she said, the feeling was the same. She told the jury, quote, I was terrified and so humiliated and so confused. What did I do wrong? End quote. As if Mia's testimony up until this point wasn't disturbing enough, the worst was yet to come. She told the jury that Diddy sexually assaulted her, and not just once, multiple times over the course of her employment. Mia made it unequivocally clear she never wanted to engage in sexual activity with Diddy. These incidents, she said, were never consensual, and they happened sporadically over the span of several years. Mia told the jury that Cassie was never present during these assaults and that she never told Cassie about them. But she said the first assault happened at the Plaza Hotel in New York during Diddy's 40th birthday party. At the time, she'd only been working for him for a few months. She told the jury he gave her 2 vodka shots and that when she drank them, something felt off, almost immediately. She says she remembered thinking, quote, whoa, did I eat today? End quote. Mia said she was in her 20s back then, living in New York, and that 2 vodka shots should not have hit her that hard, but they did. Mia testified that it wasn't long before she found herself backed up against the kitchen wall. She said Diddy leaned in close, told her not to be nervous, and that he'd noticed the, quote, good job she was doing. That's when Mia testified he kissed her and slipped his hand up under her dress. She said she felt completely frozen, and that the next thing she remembered was waking up at sunrise, alone in a chair. She was wearing her clothes, but she said she did not remember how she got there. She told the jury, quote, he was my boss. He was the boss or the king, a very powerful person, end quote. Mia testified that at the time, she told herself it was a one-off, that maybe Diddy was drunk, maybe it was a mistake, an accident. But what happened next, she said, shattered that illusion. She told the jury about a second assault, this time at Diddy's house in Los Angeles, where he lived from 2009 to 2010. Mia said she was sleeping in the upstairs bedroom, the one with the bunk beds. She stayed on the bottom bunk, and the door, she said, was unlocked because it had to be. She told the jury that Diddy would not allow her to lock the doors, even though male staffers, they had deadbolts, and they used them. Mia testified that she woke up in the middle of the night with Diddy on top of her. She said he told her to be quiet. And then, with one hand, he began to remove his pants. And through tears, Mia said he, quote, put himself inside of her, end quote. At that moment, she said she froze. Mia told the jury she felt, quote, terrified, confused, and ashamed, end quote. The prosecutor lowered her voice, gently guiding Mia through this testimony. But even as she struggled to speak, Mia told the jury, quote, it was very quick, but it felt like forever, end quote. Mia said she couldn't remember exactly how it ended, but she said one thing with certainty, quote, he didn't leave a job unfinished. She said it ended, quote, when he got what he wanted, end quote. Later in her testimony, Mia described yet another assault. This one, she said, happened at another Los Angeles home that Diddy kept at the time. She told the jury that she was helping him get ready for a meeting, something she did often. She described sitting on the floor of his closet and prepping his wardrobe for a trip, handling the last-minute details. And then, she said, quote, I looked up and he was standing right in front of my face. He had his penis out and he grabbed my head and he put it in there. At that point, Mia was no longer holding it together. She was sobbing on the witness stand. When asked how she felt in that moment, Mia answered, quote, like trash, scared, defeated, and like an idiot, end quote. Just months later, she says she found herself at the center of a far more terrifying ordeal, this one involving a bag of missing diamonds and a locked office with a lie detector test. And this one is where I thought it sounded real Sopranos-like. Capricorn told the jury about an incident in 2011 when she was asked to transport 3 pieces of very expensive jewelry to Miami: a diamond watch, a bracelet, and a necklace. These pieces of jewelry were out on loan to Diddy from Jacob the jeweler. But before she even made it to the airport, she said she realized that the bag containing the jewelry was missing. She never said exactly how or where it went missing, just that she noticed it was gone before leaving and she immediately notified security. Capricorn told the jury that shortly after that jewelry went missing, Diddy's longtime bodyguard, Paul, Uncle Paulie Offord, showed up at her front door. When asked to describe Uncle Paulie, Capricorn called him quiet, stoic, a bit menacing, and that, quote, physically he looks like a linebacker, end quote. She also said that he wore blackout sunglasses almost 100% of the time. Capricorn testified that Uncle Paulie forced her to come with him to a vacant building at 1710 Broadway. She said once they got there, they went up to the 6th floor where they met a heavy-set man chain-smoking cigarettes and sipping black coffee. A lie detector test was set out in front of him. And that man, she said, looked her straight in the eye and said this, quote, if you fail this test, they're going to throw you in the East River, end quote. Capricorn told the jury she was terrified. She said the results kept coming back inconclusive. And when she struggled to calm down, Capricorn said the chain-smoking man told her, quote, I'm not getting a good reading. You need to calm down. You're going to be in the East River if I can't get a reading on this, end quote. Capricorn admitted that she wasn't doing a good job of calming down, and she was there, she said, for a full workday, with the lie detector being administered intermittently all day long, she said. Capricorn testified that Uncle Paulie took her home after being grilled all day and, quote, he told me, I'll be back tomorrow to get you. We still got to figure this out, end quote. Talk about trying to sleep after that. She told the jury that she spent 5 full days taking lie detector tests. And when she was done, she testified that she was told, quote, you can return to work Monday. Let that sink in. Yay! Thanks. Capricorn said she never called the police, nor did she tell anybody about it because she said she was bound by an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and she said she was afraid for her safety. But she kept showing up for work because, in her words, quote, I wanted to prove my innocence, end quote. No one ever found out what happened to that missing jewelry, by the way. By that point, emotionally and professionally, though, she said she decided she was done. She walked away from Bad Boy thinking that she'd closed that chapter for good. But finding work after Bad Boy was not easy. She told the jury she lost her apartment, she lost her car, she lost her benefits, and she told the jurors that Diddy warned her she'd, quote, never work again, and that she'd, quote, probably kill herself, end quote. So in 2016, she came back. she came back to work for Bad Boy, this time to work as Cassie Ventura's creative director. She says that she tried to set boundaries, telling the jury, quote, "I didn't want to work in close proximity to Diddy. I didn't want to be trapped in the house," end quote. But those boundaries did not stick. According to Capricorn, Diddy paid for her phone and for Cassie's phone too. So one day, when Cassie texted Capricorn on that phone saying that she planned to go hiking with Kid Cudi, guy she was dating, Capricorn said she flew into a panic. She told the jury that she didn't want that kind of message sitting on a phone tied to Diddy, and that she told Cassie, quote, "This is going to get us all killed," end quote. Capricorn then drove Cassie to Best Buy and helped her buy a burner phone just to keep their messages off Diddy's radar. Capricorn told the jury that that fear wasn't paranoia, that it was justified, especially because of what happened next. Something she said she'll never forget. Something that involved Diddy and Cassie and a rapper that Diddy just learned was dating Cassie, Scott Mescudi, a.k.a. Kid Cudi. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, she said, just days before Christmas. Capricorn told the jury that she was inside her apartment in Los Angeles when suddenly she heard a loud banging on the door, metal on metal. Capricorn said she looked through the peephole and saw Diddy outside of her door, furious and pacing, and wearing a white shirt and gray slacks that strangely were ripped wide open on the crotch area to a point where she said she could see his underwear. But more importantly, she said that Diddy had a gun in his hand. When she opened the door, she said Diddy yelled, quote, "Who is Scott?" and then told her, quote, "Get dressed. We're going to kill this N-word." Of course, he didn't say N-word, right? Capricorn testified that she told Diddy she didn't want to go, but that Diddy responded, quote, "I don't give a fuck what you want to do. Go get dressed now." She said that Diddy then tucked the gun into his waistband, and feeling threatened, Capricorn said she put her clothes on and got in the Escalade with Diddy and his security guard, Ruben. The destination, Kid Cudi's house. Capricorn testified that when they got to Kid Cudi's house, she stayed in the car, and that she said she could see that Diddy and Ruben got out and walked right through Cudi's open front door. Then she said she called Cassie on a burner phone and said, quote, "Puffy came and got me with a gun and brought me to Cudi's house to kill him," end quote. She said she could hear Kid Cudi scream in the background, "He's in my motherfucking house?" Soon, according to Capricorn, she testified she could hear a car, the engine pulling up behind the car that she was in, and she said it was Kid Cudi pulling up to the house. She said he slowed down, spotted the Escalade, and then sped off. And that's when she testified Diddy came out of the house and got back in the car. She testified that Diddy yelled, "There's that N-word right there." Capricorn told the jury they took off after Kid Cudi, but that a chase through the neighborhood ended quickly. Apparently, the flashing lights of a police cruiser threw cold water on everything, she said. But the night didn't end there, not even close. Capricorn then testified that Diddy forced her to call Cassie and tell Cassie, quote, "Diddy has me, and he's not letting me go until you come." Capricorn told the jury that after she called Cassie, Diddy threatened her and Cassie by saying, quote, "You need to convince Kid Cudi to tell the police it wasn't me. If you don't, I'll kill all you motherfuckers." Kid Cudi told the jury that in December of 2011, he and Cassie were seeing each other, and that Cassie called him around 5:30 or 6 in the morning, scared and panicked. Kid Cudi told the jury, quote, "Cassie told me that Sean Combs had found out about us. She sounded really stressed out on the phone, scared, nervous. So I went to pick her up," end quote. He said he brought Cassie to the Sunset Marquis Hotel, and that's when his phone rang again. He said this time it was Capricorn Clark, Diddy's assistant. Capricorn told Kid Cudi that she was sitting there parked outside of his house and that Diddy was inside. She also said that she'd been forced to go along, like that she did not have a choice in this matter. Kid Cudi testified that he immediately called Diddy and said, quote, motherfucker, you in my house, end quote. And that Diddy replied, quote, I just want to talk to you, end quote. Kid Cudi told the jury he rushed home, but that when he got there, no one was inside. Yet. And it's a big yet. Something was clearly off. The security cameras had been moved. They were facing the wrong way. Christmas gifts for his family had been opened. And this is the worst part. His dog was locked up inside a bathroom. And that dog, normally calm, he said, became jittery and anxious all the time. Kid Cudi said, quote, I wanted to confront him, meaning Diddy. I wanted to fight him. But instead I called the police, end quote. And this is where Kid Cudi's testimony was explosive. And I mean, like really, literally explosive, up in flames. Kid Cudi told the jury that a few weeks later, in February of 2012, his car was firebombed. He told the jury that he got a phone call in the middle of the night and that the caller on the other end of the line told him his car was on fire. Cudi testified that he didn't know what else to think besides, quote, what the fuck, end quote. The jury was shown photographs of the aftermath of Kid Cudi's car, and the photo showed the Porsche 911 with a blackened door, a charred driver's seat, and the roof slashed open. Kid Cudi said, quote, the top of my Porsche was cut open. That's where they inserted the Molotov cocktail, end quote. So he added that he saw the bottle that was used for the Molotov cocktail, but that, quote, it was kind of burnt up. Can I just jump in here and say this kind of crime is officially called arson in legal terms. But the story did not end there. Just after the Porsche firebombing, Kid Cudi picked up the phone and called Diddy. He told the jury, quote, I finally told him we needed to meet up and talk. He'd been wanting to talk to me. After the fire, I said, this is getting out of hand, end quote. When prosecutors asked why he called Diddy, Kid Cudi didn't mince words, quote, I knew he had something to do with it. Kid Cudi testified that he and Diddy planned to meet up at the Soho House in Los Angeles. And when Kid walked in, he told the jury he saw Diddy, quote, standing there, staring out the window with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. That so stood out to me. I'm just picturing Diddy standing at the window, like a movie scene, hands behind his back. Oh man, he really created an image for the courtroom. And when he said that, by the way, the whole courtroom erupted in laughter. Even the jury, everybody laughed. Kid Cudi said they sat down and they talked about how he and Cassie met, how it started, how it ended, and about how neither of them knew Cassie was involved with the other. He said Diddy's demeanor during the meeting was eerily calm. He told the jury that seeing Diddy that calm was weird and actually pretty off-putting. When the meeting was over, Kid Cudi said that he shook Diddy's hand, waited until they had a firm grip, and asked Diddy point blank, quote, what are we going to do about my car? Kid Cudi said that Diddy looked him dead in the eyes with a cold stare and said, quote, I don't know what you're talking about. Kid Cudi withdrew his hand. He said Diddy fired back, quote, I thought we were cool. Do we have a problem? Kid Cudi said he asked for Diddy's word, that he had nothing to do with the Porsche getting firebombed. And he said Diddy gave it. But Kid Cudi told the jury, quote, I thought he was lying. Fast forward a couple of years, Diddy and Kid Cudi crossed paths again at the same place of all things, right? The Soho House. This time, Diddy was with his daughter. And according to Kid Cudi, Diddy pulled him aside and said, quote, man, I just want to apologize for everything. All that bullshit, end quote. But then things between Diddy and Bana got worse. The most terrifying moment of Bana's life didn't happen in a studio or a club or on a beach or in a back alley. She said it happened on a balcony, 17 stories up. Bana told the jury it was early morning, September 2016, at Cassie's apartment in Los Angeles. She was asleep on the couch with her girlfriend when suddenly there was violent pounding on the front door. She said it was Diddy. Bana said she felt an immediate wave of panic and woke up her girlfriend, who was also staying over. She says she pushed her girlfriend into the guest bathroom to protect her and whispered, "Shh." Then she told the jury that she walked out to the balcony and tried to look casual. She says she grabbed a joint but couldn't remember if it was lit or if she was about to light it, but that it didn't matter. Bana said that all of a sudden Diddy was behind her. She told the jury, quote, "He basically came up from behind me. He lifted me up and then put me on the top of the rail," end quote. Bana showed the jury how it happened. She demonstrated it. How Diddy allegedly grabbed her under the armpits and physically hoisted her so that her feet were on the top of the railing. Just let that sink in for a moment. Like, seriously, try to picture it. 17 stories up, and you're essentially dangling with just inches that could mean the difference between life and death. It's important to know that Bana said she weighed around 100 to 115 pounds at the time, and that she was only about 5 feet or so. So, logistically, could that happen? She did say that Diddy was bigger, and she said that the railing only came up to about waist height as well. She told the jury that she started pushing back against him, bracing herself and trying not to slip. She said that Diddy was yelling and screaming, quote, "You know what the fuck you did." Bana said that all she could think about was the fact that she was about to fall 17 stories to the pavement. As if dangling off a balcony isn't insane enough, Bana said she had no idea what Diddy was talking about. She told the jury, quote, "I had no idea, and I still have no idea." Bana said that she looked back at Diddy and shouted, "I don't know what the fuck I did." But Bana said that Diddy kept yelling and kept her perched on that 17-story ledge for about 10 to 15 seconds. Long enough to hear him repeat the same phrase over and over, "You know what the fuck you did." And then she says he threw her right into the balcony furniture. She told the jury that Diddy referred to her as his, quote, "freak," and expected her to behave like one, sexually uninhibited and always, always available. And when it came to protection, Jane said condoms were not allowed, not because she did not ask for them, but because Diddy said he didn't want to see them in the sex acts. And because Jane said Diddy lost interest in her and everything every time she asked the escorts to use them. She told the jury that she asked for condoms multiple times, including twice where she asked the escort directly, but that Diddy either brushed her off or made her feel guilty for even bringing the subject up. And then came the audio. The government played a nearly 9-minute recording, a conversation between Jane, Diddy, and an escort named Dawn. In the tape, Diddy could be heard entering the room and questioning what was happening. Jane responded that she hadn't been able to use protection that night. Jane was asked by prosecutors why she felt the need to get Diddy's permission for an escort to wear a condom who was going to have sex with her. And through tears, Jane said it was simple. She didn't want to upset Diddy. She told the jury that she feared what might happen if she did, specifically that saying no may cause agitation, disappointment, and consequences. Then came one of the most disturbing moments of the morning, echoing some of what we heard yesterday from Jane, but today it went deeper. Jane testified that after sex with another man, one that was handpicked by Diddy, she was not allowed to clean herself up. Instead, she said that Diddy would have sex with her immediately afterwards, and she described staying in that state while he was, quote, playing with the bodily fluids until she was finally allowed to shower. And then she'd be told to do it all over again, sometimes with the same escort, sometimes with a new escort who'd arrive, and sometimes, believe it or not, and I am having trouble actually believing this is possible, sometimes with 4 different escorts in one night. I should remind you, if you're trying to do the math on this, that she said that these freak-off hotel nights could go up to 30 hours with no sleep and a lot of drugs in order to stay awake. She said at least 3 to 4 hours it would take with one escort. So just imagine the exhaustion that she would feel afterwards. You're going to hear a lot about that in a moment, that she did bring up how exhausted she was and that she needed breaks. But hang on to your hat about what she was told about that. She testified that everything was always under Diddy's direction. He decided how long the sessions would take and when she would be able to take breaks, when she was allowed to eat, when she was allowed to sleep, and when she had to just keep going. Jane cried again and again on the stand as she described the only ways that she could communicate that she needed a moment to rest with Diddy. She'd say that she was hungry, or she'd quietly lie down, but that Diddy wouldn't take the hint. She recalled him saying, quote, "You're not getting tired on me, are you? Let's finish strong." Do you remember hearing that before? Let's finish strong? Because that was something that stood out to me and made me wince. Cassie said the same thing when she was getting tired and she didn't want to continue. Diddy said to her, according to Cassie on the stand, "Let's finish strong." When the prosecutor asked why she just didn't say no, Jane choked up again and said, quote, "I don't know." Prosecutor followed up, "What did he give you to keep going?" And Jane replied, "Ecstasy." She said she took a lot of ecstasy during those hotel nights, and she said it was to numb herself to survive it. Again, I'm hearkening back to Cassie because she said almost the exact same thing, that she tried to numb herself to get through these endless hotel nights just to please Diddy, just to avoid the consequences, and that drugs were her way out. Jane recalled 2 hotel nights that stuck with her because both of them made her cry, she testified. The first one was supposed to be a date night. At least she said that's what she thought. But instead it turned into an 18-hour session with another escort. She told the jury that Diddy said it would be quick, but that he left her, still high, still shaken, and didn't return for hours. Jane testified that when she cried, he looked at her and said, quote, "Are you crying?" with a look of disgust. She told the jury that even though she was the one who had to do all the work, up to 30 hours of straight sex with different escorts, one after the other, she still tried to please Diddy afterwards. For her, she said, the only relief came when the nightmare was over and they could return to Diddy's house. She said that's when she felt the most safe, and that she would cook for Diddy, that she'd massage Diddy, that she'd put on his favorite shows and cuddle with Diddy on the couch. This after all that she had already done for this man in the hotel. She testified that she often texted him afterwards just to say, "I love you." Sometimes Jane said she would send explicit sex messages. Jane told the jury that it was all part of the fantasy, something she believed she had to keep up because she wanted to please him, she said. But the messages shifted. In a text dated September 17th, 2023, Jane told Diddy she no longer wanted to do the hotel nights. She wrote, "Ever since I opened Pandora's box, I have never been able to close it. I am confusing your lust for me, for real love. I don't want to play this role anymore. It's dark, sleazy. We need to talk like adults and figure out how we're going to go from here. I feel like it's the only reason you have me around and why you pay for the house." End quote. That message didn't come out of nowhere. Jane told the jury that after her birthday and everything that happened that night, she needed space. Jane testified that by 2024, hotel nights had moved beyond hotels. Some happened in Diddy's Miami mansion, she said, others at her own home in Los Angeles, but that things began tapering off after February. And then came another moment that shattered Jane's composure. The prosecutor asked Jane how many different men she'd been paired with during those years, from 2021 to 2024, and Jane broke down on the stand, sobbing. She managed to identify a few of them: Paul, Don, Leo, Michael. Their photos were shown in court. Paul, she said, was a personal trainer and escort who also trained Diddy. Leo was white and nicknamed Italian. She identified a third man from 2021 and a hotel night that happened then at La Montage Hotel. Said he was bald, black, sweaty, and smelly. That's how she described him. She testified that she begged Diddy that she didn't want to continue, but that Diddy didn't care. According to Jane, Diddy told her to go through with it. As she complied, she said that Diddy had sex with her while the sweaty man hovered over her head. Afterward, Diddy brought in another escort, she said, Paul, calling him Plan B. She said Diddy blindfolded Jane and asked her to touch Paul's chest. Jane said that Paul's energy felt safe, but that she didn't want to have sex with him. She identified Michael, another escort that she had met at the Edition Hotel in L.A. She said she found him kind, even attractive, but again, that she didn't want to have sex, though it happened anyway. And then came her birthday in Miami in 2022. How do I say this? This is the kind of story I'm about to tell you where I think you need to pour yourself a whiskey or absinthe or whatever the hell it is that gets you through the day, because this was where I was so sickened. Jane recalled expecting, for her birthday, a quiet celebration with her boyfriend, Diddy. They had dinner at Nobu, she said. He gave her a gift. And then, to her disappointment, another escort was waiting in their room back at the hotel. Jane sobbed as she described what followed, the now familiar pattern. Lingerie, small talk, dancing, and sex for hours or days. It had become robotic, she said. During the act, she says she asked for a condom. She said that Diddy glared at her and mouthed the words, quote, "You better not ask for a fucking condom," end quote. She described yelping, a small sound out of fear. She said she didn't want to upset Diddy. Jane said that eventually Diddy handed the man a condom, but then he walked out of the room, lost total interest. How about that? Later that night, she said Diddy's mood shifted again. Jane testified that he surprised her with a cake and balloons in another suite. But to her shock and disappointment, another escort was ready, this one named Cabral. Cabral entered the suite, and Jane testified that she had sex with him for hours, doing everything that Diddy wanted. Foreplay, multiple rounds, and that when Cabral finally left the next morning, yet another man walked in. Don. Jane said she had sex with him too. That would be 3 escorts all through the night on her birthday, after she'd said she didn't want to do that. And after she'd asked for condoms and was told no. And then when, Diddy apparently acquiesced to the condoms, he made her feel like it was over. The mood was gone. He walked out, she said. Jane broke down again, describing this second round of sex with escorts on her birthday. She told the jury that this hotel night hurt more because it was her birthday. So there you have it. Some of the biggest bombshells from the prosecution's case against Sean Diddy Combs. And remember, this trial is far from over. In fact, the defense is almost up to bat. And you can bet that they're going to come out swinging. We'll be here for every twist and turn, every last-minute surprise. And by the way, make sure that you're subscribed on your favorite podcast app, because not every episode that I do makes it onto YouTube. Some are just podcasts, and trust me, I don't want you to miss a second of this trial. I'm Ashleigh Banfield. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, the truth isn't just serious. It's drop dead serious.